people who drive luxury cars and behave as though they are ordinary, hard-working people. We are targeting these masqueraders head-on, one by one. Their crimes are massive, and through their criminality, hundreds of other crimes get committed. We are dealing with modus operandi of crime. Through OCTA, I'm saying to top gangs and top crime families, South Africa is being disinfected of your kind. Watch your back because we are watching you. You are next. Criminals are getting extremely sophisticated and police have to be miles ahead of criminals each time and anticipate each move like good chess players. OCTA and intelligence-led policing aims to close the space, any space above or underground. The issue is that crime will continue to be present if that which makes it thrive is not de-resourced and closed. Operations are ongoing, and these strategic police operations are quiet and patient, deliberate. We request the media to bear with us when we are not able to share progress on projects or operations so that their success is not placed at risk. And importantly, our human assets are not placed at risk. I congratulate our policemen and women, SARS officials for a job well done, risking their lives for the sake of our future and the future of our kids. These criminals masquerade as normal and honest business people who own and operate normal day-to-day business, but they are crime kingpins. We are targeting under COCTA are respected people of the community while they are destroying the future of our kids. We can't stand idling while the future of our kids get destroyed. We must stamp the authority of the state. OCTA is aiming at dealing a huge blow at these masquerades. Our mandate is to rid South Africa of corruption and the underworld, criminality, amongst others. Our work is undergoing at times quietly. This includes all matters currently under intense public discourse. There will be action. Our fight against corruption and organized crime is a quiet revolution. Like we say, the revolution against corruption will not be televised. It is not going to be televised, but it will bite steadily and steadfastly, without any fear or favor given. There are no holy cows in this secret project. Ladies and gentlemen, we are de-resourcing criminality. The space will have no financiers, no planners, no masterminds, no runners, as we spread OCTA onto all of them. We must together ensure a safer South Africa and create a conducive environment for economic growth for the benefit of all South Africans. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you, Minister. We'll open the floor for questions. I don't know if we are connected to Cape Town. We're connected to Cape Town as well. Thank you. Let's take the first round from here, and then we'll see if we cannot get questions from Cape Town as well. You know the drill, name, and the organization that you represent. Thank you. Let's start from here, the front. Thank you.
Good morning, Minister. It's Alex from News 24. Minister, I hope you will bear with me. It's a question not related to this. Last week, or earlier this week rather, or was it last week, sorry, but it was announced that Captain KGB, Morris Chabalala, was officially dismissed from the police. However, SAPS maintain that he wasn't in the employ of the police after being arrested in 2013 and serving his prison sentence. But it's also still on court record that he was arrested with a crime intelligence vehicle there seems to be a bit of a disconnect between SAPS management and perhaps crime intelligence. So I was just wondering, what is the stance point now? Was he reabsorbed, reemployed by the SAPS, or wasn't he? And if he wasn't, why does there seem to be this disconnect, and why did he have a crime intelligence vehicle, and why did the crime intelligence divisional commissioner, acting commissioner, dismiss him with that letter? If you could just maybe clear that up for us, please. Thank you, Minister.
Good morning, Minister. Gerard Pretorius from ENCA. Just on this matter, just if you could, the VAT scam, if we can call it that, just the modus operandi, if we can just quickly look at that, how it operated, which type of businesses was involved with the business, and then also expecting any further arrests. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sipo.
Good day, Sipo Surmanya from SABC News. This quiet revolution you speak of, Minister, does it include matters in state of capture report, particularly individuals implicated such as the Guptas and even the state president's son, Duduzane? Does it mean that there will also be investigations, to them? Will they be investigated as well, knowing that they're highly implicated? Thank you.
Barry?
Good morning, Barry Bateman, Eyewitness News. Minister, could you perhaps explain the mechanism of fraud here, how the scam was actually working, how these individuals managed to defraud the state or the revenue service of this particular money? And could you give us an idea of how long do we suspect that these people have been operating? Thank you.
We're done yet. Thanks.
I'm going to give the General Matakat and the Commissioner to respond to some of the practical issues the journalists have asked, and then I will sweep at the end in terms of closing the gaps. I don't know who starts. Anyone can start. General?
Thanks very much, Honorable Minister. Let me also take the opportunity to thank the media. I'm going to take the first question, and the other questions I will give the opportunity to my other colleagues. I'm going to answer the question relating to KGB in two ways. There's a part that I'll give it to you, and there's a part that I will not. The first part, I will explain the part that KGB was in the employ of the South African Police Service. He was not. He was terminated in 2013 in the HR system of the South African Police Service. And that was during the time he was arrested. And the part where he was found driving a CI vehicle, it's an agent part. There's two legislations that applies here. The one legislation, the letter that was written by the divisional commissioner, it was in terms of Section 36 of the Police Act. Section 36 relates to an employee who serve in the SAPS, in the open system, and is part of the personnel plan of SAPS, and is paid as an employee of the South African Police Service. The divisional commissioner, we corrected the letter. It's Section 30, in terms of Section 36, which is applied in the letter. KGB was already terminated in 2013. That we have corrected. Then there's a part of the Strategic Intelligence Act. Why he was found driving that vehicle is in terms of the Strategic Intelligence Act, and that's an agent program, which I will not disclose further, simply because it's an IG's responsibility to deal with that. And in the Strategic Intelligence Act compel us to report to IG as well as the Joint Standing Committee, and that is the Secret Service environment. Reports pertaining to how he was found driving the vehicle and any other thing related thereto has been forwarded to the relevant authorities. And then those authorities, they will deal with that particular part. It's not an open matter, it's a Secret Service matter. So there's two legislations. But it's not part of the South African Police Service employment system. It's not part of the personnel plan. It's not paid according to the HR system. And he was not receiving a salary while he was in jail, as it is alleged. Thank you very much.
Commissioner.
Minister, thank you very much, and I would like to thank members of the media present here. There were two questions which I think they're interlinked, which was raised by the colleague from Pretoria News, if I understood very well, on the modus operandi as to how these VAT fraud processes were conducted and how long have they been under our radar. This matter has taken us quite some time, like any other investigation that either the police or ourselves are involved in. Our criminal investigation, when they came across this matter, which is opening of fraudulent accounts and companies with the need to fictitiously submit VAT numbers and VAT reclaims and VAT fund refunds, we became suspicious of the number of the companies that were submitting such VAT claims and refunds. For a number of years, we went through this process from 2011. When I took over around 2014, it was brought to my attention that there was this huge syndicate and they were trying to break it. I made it very clear that we are a revenue authority that is required by law to collect all revenue due. Anything that denies the fiscus of the required money to make our country go and to build an economy that is resilient, we should not allow it. And I would like to thank the investigators for the resilience and the close cooperation that they have done with the other law enforcement. So we followed these syndicates from that time. And lo and behold, we discovered that during that period when we were busy doing this, they had already defrauded us an amount of 30 million. Now, I just want to address this, Minister. There's been a narrative in the public domain that SAPS is withholding VAT refunds in order to bolster its revenue targets. And I think today you will bear testimony to the fact that we're dealing with syndicates who at all material times would like to get an easy ride and having access to the funds of the state. So we have a risk engine that assesses all VAT refunds as to whether we need to pay them. If they are due to you, they may take time. It's precisely because we want to have a full understanding that we're paying the right money to the right people. So this indication, therefore, of 100 million is not chicken feed. The South Africans who sleep under the bridge, the children who want to go to school. And if the state is unable to feed and be able to support its own internal investment, and people are having an easy ride and having all these things, will be a miss of our responsibility. And therefore, this process, therefore, we would like to indicate that they can run, but they cannot hide, because we work with other law enforcements, and we'll be able to indicate to yourselves that any VAT fraud that we discover is a criminal procedure, and therefore the law enforcement authorities will have to take over from where we have left it. So this has been indeed a collaborative approach. These are syndicates that are serious, very dangerous. And as you have seen, some of them are armed to the teeth. They had AKs, they had Uzi. So it's not people who would be giving our officials and investigators a bouquet of flowers to thank them. And therefore we are saying that we're going to intensify the fight against any VAT fraud that emanates or has its head anyway in the country. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Minister. There is a question around if there will be any further arrests. What I would say is that the investigation is ongoing. So if ever in the investigation there is evidence that leads us to further arrest, that will be communicated at the appropriate time. All I can say that the investigation is still ongoing. Thanks.
Yes, I just want to say that this is all about stamping the authority of the state. The point that anyone thinks they can do as they wish because the state is lackluster and is not biting, that is self-correcting in the system. And this project and many others of takedown syndicates is an indication that we've got to work smarter, but the state is decisive and biting. There will be no holy cows. From my political authority, my instruction is very clear. Allow the state organs to do their job. And my job is to ensure that they indeed execute their mandate as prescribed in the Constitution without fear or favor. The law must be blind. It doesn't matter who you are, wherever you are, whatever you do. Whatever that is reported as criminality and corruption must be investigated. And if the investigators and those who execute law enforcement have come to a conclusion to arrest will be made. So I can answer your question by saying that we don't have to prejudice individuals. Because if you do that, you are undermining the essence of what the law enforcement agencies are doing. But we need to act and act in the best interest of the Republic, where in which there's been reports of blatant corruption, allegations, and at the same time, where in which there are things that just cannot be left unattended to. We've got inquiries left and right that are going on in Parliament, but I can assure you that inside those inquiries, the law is biting. So there's nobody who's going to sing or speak without the law watching. South Africa is not a banana republic, and it's not about to be up for sale. Time to talk, blah, 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 it's over. And I can tell you now that these things have been going on and investigations have been going on. I came in as the Minister of Police. I met with the Hawks. I was satisfied with the reports that I got. And I was very, very satisfied. And the fact that I talked about a quiet revolution, which will not be televised, I knew what is coming in terms of our law enforcement agencies, that they are doing their job. Because all of us must subject ourselves to the rule of law. And the rule of law must be respected by all. It doesn't matter. You are a journalist, you are a politician, you are a soccer player, you are a musician, you are anybody, or you are ordinary. The law must be the same. And it cannot shout higher to those who look poor, and then to those who have something, we put a blind eye. The law must be blind. So you talk about many cases and all fraud, corruption that is happening. Our duty and our responsibility is to investigate and bring those who are corrupt to book. And these operations, including this one today, explain our story. That is the story of a law enforcement that is undeterred and decisive. And I salute all the police officers, Hawks, and the South African Revenue Services, who braved the storm, who could easily be bought by people who are moneyed, who are fraudsters, but they braved the storm, and the minister and the police will honor them for the bravery of bringing down criminals who are defrauding the state and undermining the authority of the state and our legitimate cause of institutions of the state who are there to protect our people. And that is what this is all about. And as we undertake this mission of ridding ourselves of criminal elements, but we must equally deal with those who are sophisticated. And that is where it matters most. If you remember, starting from last week, we're in the Eastern Cape taking them down. And we're in KwaZulu-Natal taking them down. And now we have this taking them down. We are taking them down, and they are all under our radar, and that is going to continue. As for other cases that are reported in the public domain, allow the law to take its course, and I can assure you that nothing will be left unattended. There will be no holy cows. The state will bite, as you will see. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Cape Town, do we have any questions?
No, we don't have a question in Cape Town. Thanks. Back to you.
Thank you. Can you just take the last round quickly? Pretoria, let's start from gentlemen here. We'll come to you.
Sipho Mapena for the Sowetan. Minister, last year police arrested Murage Samuel Malulega, a member of a suspected Atteridgeville criminal gang called Team Vault SA. When this arrest was made, you mentioned that the plan was to take down the gang as well as rogue police officers who were instrumental in Malulega evading justice. What are the developments in that investigation? Thank you.
General Gerard again from ENCA. Just a quick follow-up. In terms of the businesses that was run, a practical example, was it goods that was sold off? Take, for instance, we read in the book Jagpo about cigarettes or whatever. So what was there physical, the physical products? Is there physical products involved here? And then secondly, I saw that they said they're going to appear in court today. Just want to find in Durban and in Pretoria. So I just want to find out how many suspects will be appearing in Pretoria and how many in Durban, and confirm that they actually will appear in court today. Thank you.
Okay, Sipho.
Just a quick follow-up. Minister, you say your political authority says you must let state law enforcement authorities run their course to their job. Who is this political authority? Is it Cyril Ramaphosa, to be specific? If you can just explain that for us.
Yeah, well, let me explain that to you. I'm appointed by President Zuma, and he's still the state president. And under him we serve. And if Cyril Ramaphosa, as the president of the ANC, were to come in, you will find the House continuing with its tasks. So there is no stoppage in relation to what is actually happening. So we're executing that mandate. But these state organs must continue to do their job without fear or favor, under any command that come into place. So in this particular regard, there is no confusion about that. So I know your question is very mischievous and loaded. and I know behind it there are many other questions. So all I can say to you is that these state organs have been doing their job, and the fact that space and time is defined in the moment after the conference of the ANC. It is that moment we're at. And you guys have been writing and doing your job and analyzing and so on. It is the space and time. But the fact of the matter is that this work has been continuing. I happened to be in one meeting of the ANC last year, which I addressed. And I explained to them when some were complaining about work and arrests and fighting corruption. I said to them, look, this work is continuing and you must be alert. And they will remember that day, which was last year in July, where I spoke about these issues, because it was the top leadership of the country that was saying that we need our state organs to bite. But I said that revolution will not be televised. And when action is undertaken and people are brought down, don't complain and say that it is political. It is this and that. Because at that moment, it will be the state that is grinding. Now, you will know in the discourse that there are many high-profile cases, obviously, that have attracted the media ire through what is called state capture. Now, the police, when they investigate and undertake investigation in relation to corruption, they don't look at the definition state capture. That is left to the judge to investigate state capture, whether it exists. Their job is to take down anyone who is doing corruption. And if you didn't do corruption, you don't have to fear anything. So we don't look at the movie in Parliament. That is not our job to look at the movie. In the movie, we look at the contradictions in relation to what the police must do in terms of safeguarding the Republic and doing their job in fighting corruption. So if you are corrupt and you talk to the media too much, that's your problem. You know, and the police must do their job without looking at the face. They must be blunt, they must be decisive. And in this particular instance, that's what is going on. And here as the minister leading these organs and all of that, I can assure South Africans and all of you that the hand of the law is going to be decisive, as it is now, from all angles going forward. And it has been like that, and they're working very hard, and we're continuing with that work. And all I'm appealing to you is that I know you are over anxious, you like to write indictments that are not there, and so on. Just respect, give the police and everybody the opportunity to do their job, and all of that, and which I welcome. But it doesn't mean that you cannot write what you see, because sometimes you tell us about criminals we don't know, and then we get to go and catch them because the media have reported about something that we're not aware of. But in that, you must observe the rules of the game in relation to what the law says, and at the same time what is permissible in the context of the law, so that we don't prejudice people and we actually weaken the state organs. So that is that. I'm not going to respond to operational issues. What I can say, General can speak to that, but you know that gang and its members, some of them are still on the run. They've been taken down, including the set guy, and so on. And there are many others that you see in social media that we will stamp the authority of the state. Fact of the matter, that will happen. And this country is not a banana republic. We're not going to allow small boys to do as they wish here in this country. They can impress their girlfriends and everybody, but they must impress them with legit money. If that money is stolen, we'll bring them down. And that's what we'll do. And the matters are before the courts. Bails have been denied. And some of the members of that particular gang have actually been rounded off in and around the areas they were operating, Atteridgeville and these other areas. But there were a whole lot of them ran away. But the Octa will catch them and bring them to book. So in this particular instance, I'm very happy about the swift, operation the police undertook in relation to that gang. Here in Tshwane and Mamelodi areas and so on, which were basically showcasing, a distorted lifestyle. To say that to become a gangster, to steal, to play around with money and all of that is an in thing. There is nothing wrong if you want to become Floyd Mayweather, display your cars because you are a boxer. We know where you get your money from. But if you do all of those things from stolen money, you must know that the state is not sleeping. That exhibition on its own must be understood, attended to detail, to understand as to exactly what sort of lifestyle is that. So that is the authority of the state. General?
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Minister. In actual fact, the Minister has already given 80% of the response to the first question, the Morake investigation. The one thing I would just like to add is that it's a diverse investigation. One, there's a cold case that is analysis that we're running against him and the whole gang. Then there's also an unconventional process that is running, which I think the ministers have referred to as the OCT. Then there's the investigation, which is at court level, and we wouldn't disclose much about it. Beyond that, we're also doing a modus operandi analysis and research for the syndicate so that we apply a counter strategy to destroy their modus operandi. So this is the status of the matter at the present moment, but we're moving towards destroying the syndicate. Thank you.
Just a quick response. There's an issue of how these businesses operate. SAPS is employing meticulous processes through its risk engine of identifying companies that register for VAT as VAT vendors. And when we are receiving their request for payments, we go through to the process of analyzing all that information. And indeed, it is important that we need to indicate that because of the resurgence of this type of activities, SAPS is closing down on these syndicates by using highly sophisticated processes, data analytics, which is very key, and also at the same time, and be able to use what you call walkabout processes that seeks to be able to see as to how they operate in their environment. But we want to assure South Africans that these activities will not be given an opportunity to survive. We would like to create an environment wherein all South Africans who pay their fair share of taxes be assured that those who are involved in the various activities of defrauding the state will face the full wrath of the state and will work together with the law enforcement authorities. Indeed, VAT fraud is a serious crime, and by its nature, it is punishable by law. And we have a dim view of those who think that we don't want to pay or to refund people who are ordinarily supposed to do so. We do also have indicated that we also want to apologize at times of the delays. It's precisely because today you can attest to the fact that it has been taking for such a long time, and therefore we need to put our meticulous processes in place in order for us to be able to stop this type of activities taking place. Thank you very much.
The question around the arrested individuals, whether they appeared in court. We arrested 9 individuals, 5 in Gauteng, 4 in Durban, and they appeared yesterday at the Specialized Commercial Crimes Court in both Pretoria and Durban. They are out on bail, ranging from 20,000 to 100,000 rands.
Thank you, Ms. I think this, Alex, okay, last one, quickly, my brother, we have to go.
Hello, Minister. Sorry, this is just, my timeline is blowing up with this, so I'm asking on behalf of the citizens. Where are we with the investigation into the murder of Senzo Mayiwa?
Here, that just came through. Just to ask, what is government doing to stop illicit financial flows that have also been spoken about a lot? And also, another one is, if you can ask you about the situation in Manguzi, people are complaining that the border crime there in the town, is out of control, and that the town has been shut down recently. If you can just comment on that as well, please. Thank you.
Yeah, well, Manguzi, to start with, from here we're going there. We're going to Manguzi. The town has been shut down, and people have been saying on Twitter, I'm going there to meet my Inyanga, so I'm not going there to meet Inyanga or something like that. But we're responding to issues of law enforcement that the communities have raised. Escalation of criminality going into the border of Mozambique. We're going to address those particular issues, but some of them we need to address them together with the Mozambicans, because if your car crosses the border, it will never come back. It is very difficult for us to get your car come back from Mozambique. So we need to sort out those particular issues. We've deployed, changed the whole police force in Manguzi and arrested about 9 police officers who were doing crime there in Manguzi. I'm with the general here. We're going there. We'll do an assessment. We'll listen to the community, and we'll take extra steps to stamp the authority of the state. And that's what we've done also in Kagiso and Mansfield, to listen to communities there. We are still on operation at arresting drug dealers. Whether they are, where they come from, it doesn't matter. We've launched Operation Fiela. It is in full swing in all the provinces. It's going to be intensified. You'll see in Gauteng. So we're hard at work, but we're going to Manguzi because there are specific things that society and community is asking there that we're actually going to attend to expeditiously, because we cannot afford a shutdown. But the shutdown can happen because the community is hurtful, because maybe certain things do not happen the way simple things cannot actually happen. So we need to go there and listen and attend to those matters. So the president have granted me the permission, and the General Matagata will be going down there and to basically look at the situation, and already our teams are on the ground. So it's not just a quick fix. It's a question of knowing what exactly we need to do in those particular areas. So we'll be attending to that. I'm going to give General to answer the other 2 questions, but I can say with Senzo, that case is not closed. I spoke about it. I think we will be handicapped to speak about the detail. I've gone to visit Senzo's father, and I'm still going to go back to him together with the police to give him the details of what is happening. But I can assure you it is not closed. What I cannot tell you is exactly what are the details that are involved in the case itself, which I don't think even the general will do that. But from where we are, it will never be closed up until somebody gets arrested for killing Senzo Meyu. And we're up and running in terms of that. General?
Thank you very much, Minister. Maybe just to start with Senzo's case is to say there's a high-profile investigation task team that is looking into the case, and we do not want to go to the media, create expectations that cannot be backed up by action, because all we want in the Senzo's case is action now. We can no longer explain and keep on explaining. And further to that, we also know that it's a case that bears quite a high public interest, and everyone is looking at it. And I just want to give you a Helen Keller quote: "Just when the caterpillar thought the world was over, it became a butterfly." So we will talk to the outcome. Secondly, there's a question on stopping illicit financing. My other colleagues will add, but I just want to respond to this case from the turnaround vision that we pronounce. And one of the greatest objectives that we want to achieve there is the creation of a crime-free, conducive climate for economic growth. We've decided from a policing point of view that let policing protect economic growth in the country. And further to that, we also decided we want to protect the grand economic strategy of the country, because all what you see at the present moment, these types of crimes, they are all directed to the grand economic strategy. And if we do not...
It's coming out of the press briefings there by the Minister of Police, Fikile Mbalula, as well as the Police Commissioner.
This particular plan today is also going to escalate into an integrated crime-fighting plan between us, SARS, as well as DPCI. As you see, we're moving forward. We're escalating it further. We then intend to connect the rest of the others. The border question, the minister has responded to it. It's just to say there's two things that we're going to do. One, operationally and from the South African side, we have deployed, we have intensified, but we need, again, an inter-country solution. Hence, the purpose of the visit will then escalate to a cross-border operational that is solution, where we work together with Mozambique to address this particular problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister and colleagues. Mine is to perhaps cap on what the National Commissioner of South African Police Services just indicated on illicit financial flows. Illicit financial flows are an international problem, and in the main they affect African countries or developing economies. So South Africa is not immune to that. The level of illicit financial flows is so huge that it denies developing economies ability to grow their economies, and it takes different forms and shapes. But I want to indicate that we have 3 institutions that are seized with this particular aspect to develop a strategy. The South African Reserve Bank, the South African Revenue Service, FIC, Financial Intelligence Center, including, of course, National Treasury, that to look as to how best we can deal with this particular aspect. It's not an easy-going process because illicit financial flows take different forms and shapes. A case in point is that I think the media is aware of the fact that SARS has indicated a report or reported that we have been able to bust some passengers who were living on EK 4741, I should think 2 days ago, to Dubai. And we have been able to impound millions of rands that were leaving our country. So it takes different forms or shapes. So there is no one single formula as to how illicit financial flows are taking place. Some are taking what you might call open close code legitimate forms, wherein people will request the Reserve Bank to take money out for payment of goods and services which do not come back into the country. But certainly I want to assure the South African public that illicit financial flows is a problem and that we're dealing with expeditiously as a team, and we are putting a document for government to be able to see what strategies are we going to put in place as to how to limit the huge amounts of money that are leaving the African continent and thus denying our economies to serve the interests of their people. Thank you very much.
Colleagues, thank you very much for honoring this media briefing. For those who want to do one-on-ones with the minister, please let's do them quickly. As we had, they are off to KwaZulu-Natal. We will only be able to transfer about 5 to 10 minutes, then we're back. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir.
I'm fine. Well, thank you. How are you? Do a quick interview with the minister.
Yes, from
How TV. Thank you.
Yeah.
Minister, we just want a quick summary, just